Late one winter night in December 2003, in the still darkness of rural Iraq, a lone underground hideout sat hidden beneath the earth, its entrance sealed off with layers of foam and camouflaged so perfectly that even a trained eye could pass by without noticing. Inside, the air was stale, and somewhere in the shadows sat a man who had once ruled a nation with absolute power. Above ground, the village slept until, without warning, the streetlights blinked out. The hum of electricity faded into the distant rumble of armored vehicles. Hundreds of US soldiers moved in, sweeping through every street, every alley, every home. Somewhere in this labyrinth of mud brick walls and farmland, the most wanted man in the world was hiding. When the soldiers reached a modest farmhouse, they noticed something at a length of rope, half buried in the dirt, leading into the earth itself. Following it, they uncovered a concealed hatch. The soldiers surrounded the entrance, weapons ready. A hand reached for a grenade. One pull of the pin, and the hunt would end violently. But before the pin could be drawn, a pair of trembling, wrinkled hands emerged from the hole. Then came the face, tired, bearded, unmistakable. In a calm, steady voice, he declared, "I am the president of Iraq. I demand negotiations." It was the dramatic conclusion to one of the most relentless manhunts in modern military history, the capture of Saddam Hussein. The story began months earlier. In March 2003, in a televised address watched around the globe, then US President George W. Bush announced that American and Allied forces had begun military operations in Iraq. The stated mission was clear: disarm the regime, liberate the Iraqi people, and remove what was claimed to be a grave threat to world security. The United States, joined by the United Kingdom, Australia, Poland, and other nations, launched a rapid invasion within just 3 weeks. Coalition forces stormed Baghdad. The skyline was lit by fire, and the sound of tanks rattled the city streets. In Firdos Square, soldiers and civilians gathered around a towering statue of Saddam, a symbol of his decades in power. Cameras captured the moment US soldiers draped an American flag over the statue's face, sparking outrage among Iraqis who saw it as a symbol of foreign dominance. The flag was quickly replaced with an Iraqi one before the statue was pulled down in a moment broadcast worldwide. Yet, despite the symbolic toppling, the man himself had vanished, slipping into the shadows. Finding him became the top priority. To track Saddam and his closest allies, the US military created a deck of playing cards, each showing the face of one of the regime's most wanted figures. Saddam was the ace of spades. His sons Uday and Qasem followed close behind. One by one, the names on the cards were crossed off as figures were captured or killbots. The top targets remained elusive. The military offered massive rewards: $15 million for each son and $25 million for Saddam himself. The first major breakthrough came 4 months into the war, when a man walked into a US base in Mosul claiming to be sheltering Uday and Qasem Hussein. At first, commanders doubted the tip, but sent a team to check. What followed was an intense firefight as the brothers refused to surrender. Reinforcements arrived, and a missile strike reduced much of the building to rubble. When the dust cleared, both were dead. Their deaths, while eliminating 2 of Saddam's closest allies, didn't directly reveal his location. But soon after, a voice recording of Saddam mourning his sons aired on Iraqi radio, proving he was alive. The manhunt continued, led by an elite covert unit known as Task Force 20, but repeated raids often came up empty, and mistakes led to civilian casualties, making the search even more complicated. That's when Army Sergeant Eric Maddox proposed a new approach. Instead of chasing senior officials, he focused on Saddam's personal security network, the elite Hamayat guards who had been constantly at his side. This strategy led to Saddam's hometown of Tikrit, where many bodyguards' families still lived. During interrogations, one name kept resurfacing: Mohammed Omar Olmos, Saddam's most trusted bodyguard and believed leader of resistance operations. Through careful questioning of relatives and associates, Maddox discovered that Mohammed often visited his family's fish ponds. This detail matched an earlier clue from Saddam's former butler, who revealed the dictator's fondness for a specific type of local fish. Acting on the lead, US forces raided the ponds. They didn't find Mohammed, but fishermen revealed his whereabouts. Soon after, Mohammed was captured in Baghdad. After assurances for his safety, he agreed to guide them to Saddam's hideout. On December 13, 2003, U.S. troops moved into the village of Ad-Dor, near After searching several farmhouses without success, Mohammed led them to a small hut. Outside was a half-buried rope. The soldiers pulled it, revealing the entrance to a narrow underground chamber, the now infamous spider hole. Inside was Saddam Hussein, disheveled and exhausted. He surrendered without resistance. Cameras captured every moment: the cramped space, his medical examination, and his appearance. Broadcasts globally to contrast the once feared leader with his vulnerable state. For the US, it was more than a military victory. It was a symbolic image, a way to show the world the regime was truly over. But while the manhunt ended, the conflict in Iraq was far from finished. The capture of Saddam Hussein remains one of the most high-profile military operations in modern history. It combined intelligence gathering, cultural insight, human informants, and relentless pursuit. Yet it also sparked questions about the cost, the use of war imagery, and the fine line between justice and propaganda. The memory of that night, the rope in the dirt, the hidden hatch, the wrinkled hands emerging from the darkness still stands as a moment that changed the course of history, closing one chapter for Iraq and opening another filled with uncertainty.